Hello and welcome to today's show. We are kicking off this season strong with our first guest of season 4, and we're going to talk about business, about mindset, about confidence, and how this shaped her life and her journey. So welcome to Emily Jane Sarroff.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you all the way from Australia.
Yes, the other side of the world.
The other side of the world. I love these connections. Yes. So before I invite Emily Jane to share her story, I'd love to read her bio for you all so we get to know her a little bit. Emily Jane's mission is to show entrepreneurs that the possibilities of what they can achieve in life is truly limitless, and that the only thing stopping them from getting where they want to be is their mindset and skill set, both of which you have the power to shift. I love it already. She is a graduate of architectural design, Jay Shetty certified life coach, business mentor, social media figure, host of the Empower with M podcast, and a 6-figure business owner. Yes. So many accomplishments in such a short time, I feel. So tell us, how did you get here?
Yeah, well, I absolutely love listening back to the bio introductions because it always, just allows me to have that chance to just anchor into what it is that I have done. But I really stepped into this entrepreneurial space at 22 years old. At the time, I was studying my Masters of Architecture. I had about 6 months left to go on that. So I had just spent like the last 5 years leading up to that, really working towards that specific career path. And I reached a point where I just realized that there was this massive inner conflict that was going on within me where, my head is telling me to keep on going, finish the next 6 months, get your master's degree, like keep on that path that you've been on. But then my heart was really pulling me in a different direction, where I was wanting to explore something else, something that was completely different to anything that I had ever done before. And so in that moment, I really had to face one of the first major challenges of making that decision of, do I let go of everything I had worked so hard towards, that I invested so much time, money and energy into, and do I pursue something new? And I knew deep in my body that the path that I was on was not the one for me, which was why I gave myself that permission slip to drop out of my master's, quit my 9 to 5 job in the architecture industry as well, and just go all in on starting a business around my podcast. And I knew that it was the right decision that I made when in just 8 months, I had then gone on to make my first 6 figures in my business as well. So really how I got onto this path was like listening to my intuition and what it was pulling me towards, and then also taking some massive radical action in alignment with that nudge that I was being pulled towards.
Amazing. Wow. Congratulations. This is the power of listening within and really following that intuition. But I'm sure, like most people listening, they're scared, right? There's that fear of what if it doesn't work out, which I'm sure crossed your mind. But it seems that your bravery and your courageous nature led you through. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you overcame, or I even could say maybe leaned into the fear for those listening?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, like, I'm almost 4 years into my business journey now, and that fear still comes up every time I try something new. But whenever I have that feeling of I want to pursue something, I want to try something new, but that fear is present, rather than focusing on the short-term fear, so the immediate fear that is coming up, instead I focused on the big picture consequences of not leaning in. So when I did take that step to quit my master's degree, yeah, there was a lot of fear coming up with that. And to then also quit my 9 to 5 job, like I was surrounded by fear. But the fear that was the heaviest for me was the fear of being in the same position that I was in then 5 years from that point. The fear of still being in that office job, still having to live by the routine of someone else, and the fear of really having to sacrifice the freedom and the potential that I was seeing in that moment as I was moving towards a different path. So when you are facing that, immediate fear, instead, I want to challenge you to shift your focus onto the bigger picture, because by not taking action in the present moment, because some immediate fear is coming up, you're actually contributing to placing yourself in a position that is actually connected to an even greater fear in the future. So to find the courage to move forward in the moment is really about realigning with the bigger picture vision and taking action that's in alignment with that.
I love that. Yes. That shift in perspective is so important because it's true. We do focus on the immediate fear of like, what is going to happen right now? Like this one move that I'm going to make, I'm going to leave this job and then what? Instead of,
Mm-hmm.
you're right, because I went through something similar of leaving my corporate job and wanting to go all in on coaching in my own business, but that I can't be here. I can't remain in this position because it's not good for my health. There's that as
Yeah.
well, right? Like your body starts to tell you and give you these
Yes.
signs. And I think it's important, like you're saying, the intuition, like you need to listen to what your body is saying. And you need to,
Mm,
I think also what you have demonstrated is get really clear on what you want,
yeah.
right? And then take actions that align with who you want to be. And I see
Mm,
that a lot with people who I coach or just friends or anyone who's trying to make a change in their life. They know maybe where they want to go, but they're not quite sure how to get there, and they're not quite sure what values
mm,
align with those actions, so they don't really know which direction to go in next. So
mm,
for someone listening and they just want to take that first step towards change of any kind, what would you suggest?
mm. There's many steps that obviously you can take at that point, right? When you're realizing there's some sort of change that you do want. And I guess the biggest piece of advice I would give you is to just allow yourself to fail if necessary, right? A lot of the time, people don't take that first step or don't allow themselves to lean into change because they're
Mm-hmm.
scared that they're going to fail,
Right.
right? But what if you just removed that as a barrier? What if you embraced the opportunity of failure? You know, when I stepped into starting my business, I knew there was going to be failures that came along the way with it, but I didn't make that failure necessarily mean anything about me or mean anything about the direction that I'm moving. Instead, I shifted my perspective around how I viewed failure so that I would welcome it as a teacher. So, if you're holding yourself back from taking that first step forward because you fear making a mistake, you fear failing, whatever that may be, allow yourself to actually embrace the potential of failure, because my biggest failures have been my biggest teachers across this journey in business and have allowed me to actually further accelerate and also become further equipped to help other people walk that same path as well.
Don't be afraid to fail. I love it. Love, love, love. So tell us a little more about your personal journey, because I know you also experienced burnout in the
Mm.
beginning of was it your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, yeah. So I experienced burnout across a big chunk of my journey. Like I'm coming up on 4 years in business now, and I'd say a solid almost 2 and a bit years, I was suffering from burnout. And so after I had made my first six figures, in that journey to actually making that six figures, my mindset was not in the right place. I was focused on seeing how quickly I could make as much money as I possibly can and as young as I possibly could. So I was very ego driven at that point. And what that ended up costing me was my health, my relationships. I sacrificed so much of what I valued in the pursuit of that goal. And so once I had made my first six figures, sure, I did it young and I did it fast and I did it in a really entertaining way for all of my followers on social media to really come along the journey and watch, but I burnt myself out. And I remember sitting at a picnic that I had with my girlfriends to celebrate my first 100K, and I was crying because I realized I had not spent quality time with them in so long. I realized my health wasn't where I wanted it to be. I had let myself go. I had stopped going to the gym. I had different stress induced health issues that were coming up. And I started to look at what I had created and question why. Like, why? What is the point of having all of this if I now feel exactly how I felt when I was in my degree and I wanted to leave that? And so I knew that
Mhm.
there was something that I had to change in my approach to making my next six figures in order to want to stay on this path that I was on. So coming out of that first 100K, I was in burnout. But then being in that low state, I attracted a relationship that ended up becoming a domestic violence relationship. And so for the next year and a half to follow that, instead of recovering from burnout, my burnout was worsening and worsening and worsening because, between the ages of 23 and just over 24, I was now in a DV relationship, trying to heal from burnout, trying to keep my six-figure business afloat, trying to serve my clients, trying to serve my team, and trying to serve myself all at the same time. So that then became another major challenge for me to really learn how to build myself out of. And again, like connect back with my intuition, which I had lost sight of throughout that journey as well. So it was only after I came out of that relationship where I was really able to start to begin to build my business from a place where I was no longer deep inside of burnout, but I was in a place of recovery. And it was actually a blessing that I went through what I did, because that was really what taught me how I do want to run my business, how I don't want to run my business, and what I needed to change in order to get me to where I am right now in my business.
You've been through a lot. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. But when you were in that state, were you aware at the time how low you had gotten in terms of that you were disconnected from your friends, that you were basically not taking care of yourself and only focused on the business?
No, I was oblivious to it, right? Like I didn't even know what burnout was at that
Mhm.
point, to be honest, either. So I was very unaware of what was happening. And I was very unaware of the sacrifices I was making because I was so focused on just the one goal. And so this is a big thing around how I build my business now, is it's not just about making money, it's
Mhm.
about making sure that all of my other needs are being met as well. Because if you get to the destination and you haven't actually created space for everything else that you desire, it's not going to magically appear. So when I was in that first year of business, like there was some big signs that I needed to slow down. One of which, well, the first of which should have been the fact that I stopped going to the gym, because my whole life, like I've always been someone who is so disciplined to the gym. I love the gym. Like it's a way for me to just like feel so strong and so good within myself. And that was the first thing that went. And so that should have been the first sign. But the
Mhm.
next major sign was when I actually got rushed to hospital thinking I was having a heart attack. So a 22, 23-year-old girl, going to the emergency room thinking she's having a heart attack should have been a big red flag that something needed to change. But these thankfully wasn't a heart attack. It was stress induced muscular cramps that were actually coming on. But even following that, again, like I didn't stop to actually think about what had happened and
Right.
what my body was indicating to me. Because again, I was so unaware because I was purely focused on that one destination that I wanted to get to. And so I guess a big lesson that came from that is to actually slow down enough that you can pay attention to the signs and the symptoms that are coming up, whether that be physical or whether that be emotional, that you're experiencing something within your body. Pause, slow down enough to actually be able to listen to that. So, I guess in a sense, you could probably say for that first year of business, I was quite disassociated because I
Right.
was only fixated on that one destination.
Right. Thank you for sharing, because I think the symptoms you experienced and what you went through is definitely relatable for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
maybe in this context, they can perhaps shed some light on, are they in that situation and oblivious to it like you were? Because I think a lot of us are, when we're so focused on that end goal of like make that money in that short amount of time and how fast can I get there, nothing else matters. Right.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And I think something on that as well is like paying attention to your belief systems, because
Mhm.
my belief system, like growing up, my dad had always been that person, that figure who I looked at as like, okay, cool. Like this is success. He's a businessman. He's working really, really hard. He's making lots of sacrifices in order to create the opportunities that he's created for us. I've been really blessed to have always been so supported by my dad and by both my parents. And so I had always seen the way that he had achieved success in all the different areas of his life, whether that have been in politics or whether that have been in business or something else. And so then that was now the belief system that I had to work like him in order to succeed. I had to sacrifice. I had to hustle hard. I had to put the goals and the success that I'm wanting to create before my health, before my relationships, before everything else. And now, whilst I've had a great relationship with my dad, he's done so much, but now having gone through building success in the same way that he did, it made me realize that that's not how I wanted to actually create my business, because I'm in business for life, and me building my business in that way is going to be unsustainable. It's not going to feel good, and it's going to take away the very joy of why I'm doing the thing that I'm doing. And so I had to really check in with my belief systems, particularly after experiencing that point of burnout, and start to see, like, how do I need to shift these? How do I need to restructure these beliefs that I'm carrying so that I can ultimately approach creating success in a way that feels better than what it had in the past?
Right. And thank you for saying that, because what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for everybody. And I know a
Yeah.
lot of us, we do model that behavior. We see someone who's successful, especially if it's someone who we're close to, like a parent figure, and we just follow their lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which in retrospect, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But when you look back and say, but is that for me? Right? Is that
Yes.
what worked for them might not necessarily work for me, and things are different with me, and I want different things. So it's
Yeah.
okay to alter and to find what works for you. And so
Mm.
maybe share with us, Emily Jane, what was it that you were able to shift and see how you could make this journey unique to what you needed and your value and your beliefs?
Yeah. The biggest thing for me was just creating space to slow down. So
Mhm.
after I had experienced that burnout, the first thing that I implemented was boundaries, right? Boundaries around the hours I was working, the days that I was working. Previously, I was getting up at 3 a.m. to be on mentorship calls some days and then going to bed at like 10 to 12 p.m., right? So I had zero boundaries. So that was the first thing, was actually creating solid working hours of, okay, well, actually, I want to sleep in. I want to have space for self-care in the morning. So I'm going to start my day here and I'm going to finish it here, so that I've also got time for the gym. Another big boundary I put in place was I stopped working on weekends. So I actually said to myself, I'm going to start to integrate some of the 9 to 5 structure into my business, because I'm tired of working 24/7. I actually want my weekends back. And so that was a
Absolutely.
big thing that I did for myself as well. And so that space element has really just been the biggest shift for me, because I love working on my business. I love working with my clients and creating, but I also love having space for myself. And I learned that I really needed to create that clear separation between work and lifetime, so that I ultimately wouldn't end up working my whole life away. And so that's been the biggest shift for me, which then allowed me to, travel the world for 6 months and enjoy my weekends again, and create space for myself in the morning so that I can have that slow routine and really fill up my own cup before I then go and pour into anyone else.
I love boundaries, space, yes to all the things. If you're listening, boundaries, we talk about it often on this show, but definitely boundaries are something that's hard for fellow people pleasers and
Yeah,
people who
very
are
hard.
perfectionists as well. And you want to just keep working, you want to do all the things. But I think to put yourself first, that's the best thing you can do for yourself in terms of entrepreneur and business. I think what's special here is recognizing that our generation needs a different approach when it comes to
Mm,
boundaries, when it comes to space, but more importantly, like you said, of slowing down, of not following the hustle culture, not working 24/7, especially as an entrepreneur. So this is all mindset, right? This all comes down to how you view things. And do you have any tools or tips for people who are maybe stuck in that hustle culture, or they have people around them who are still on the grind and they just want to slow down? What is something they could do to help shift their mindset?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when it does come to shifting that mindset is just getting really clear on what's driving that mindset. So, what is the fear that's actually keeping you in that state of feeling like you need to hustle and you can't slow down? What are you scared is going to happen if you do create space, if you do slow down, and really actually go to the root of what is coming up there so that you can first understand that and then you can start to rewire that. And so for
Mhm.
me, I really used to believe that if I slowed down, if I stopped, then I was going to lose my momentum or I was going to lose, the progress that I was making. But then the reality of my situation actually proved the opposite, where me not stopping and me not slowing down was unsustainable, resulted in a crash, and then that broke my momentum and progress. So really get clear on what is that fear that's coming up for you and
Mhm.
start to see how you can shift that belief to actually align with the way that you do want to be building your business. And I ended up going on after making my first six figures from that place of hustle. I was then forced to make it from a different place because I was in that DV relationship and I physically did not have the capacity to hustle. So I was forced to then find a new way to really make my next six figures without the hustle, without overexerting myself because I didn't even have the capacity to pour my full self into my business. And so that then proved to me that it is possible to make six figures in the same amount of time, but in a completely different approach. And so then
Mhm.
that allowed me to believe, well, okay, if I can do that this way, then why would I go back to doing it that other way? So it really does come back to reframing those beliefs, those fears that are coming up, and shifting your action to align with those new beliefs that you really do want to solidify.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so, as a business coach, is this the kind of stuff that you help people with? Tell us a little
Mm.
bit about what you do.
Yeah, awesome. So it definitely is. And like this is something that I had created a post on my socials about a couple of months ago now where we all have our My Story post, which we put on our socials to create that way for people to quickly and rapidly get an idea of who we are. But I hadn't actually updated mine for a couple of years. And then I realized, oh, there's like a big piece of my journey that's really missing here. I shared the story of my first six figures, but I didn't share the story of the domestic violence relationship, the recovering from burnout, the traveling the world whilst continuing to run a six-figure business. And it was in creating that story post that I actually realized exactly why I am so equipped to be helping new business owners with building their businesses. Because on one level, I provide the business strategy. I teach you what you need to be doing from that strategic perspective in order to create the offer, to sign the clients, to create magnetic marketing, to close high ticket sales. But then I also have this embodied wisdom from everything that I have moved myself through over the past 3 to 4 years of business that then makes me so equipped to help you navigate whatever personal, emotional, physical challenges you face in that journey as well. And that's one of the hardest things as an entrepreneur is learning how to hold yourself as well as holding your business in times of challenge, in times of hardship. So as a business mentor, not only do I hold you through the strategy, but I hold you through the energy and the mindset and the personal and physical and emotional challenges that you're going to navigate as well, so that you too can learn how to not just hold a six-figure business, but hold absolutely every other area and aspect of your life at the same time.
Very unique offer. I
Thank
love
you.
it. Yes. Well said as well. Do you find there is a perhaps common need or perhaps challenge for your clients when they come to you? Is there something that you tend to see often? I'm just curious.
Mm. One of the biggest things that I see is, well, there's a couple of things. The first is obviously like the fear, right? And really, because my client is generally at that first stage in their journey where they're wanting to leave their 9 to 5s, or maybe they've just left their job and now they're like needing to make their business actually work. So they're very much in that very beginning stage where there is a lot of fear that comes up. And so
Mhm.
that's the first challenge that I really see a lot of my clients needing to navigate. But the other challenge is also in helping my clients learn how to regulate their emotions and navigate the stress that they now experience as an entrepreneur. Because in a 9 to 5 job, there is a lot less stress that you experience, in the sense of, that you've got a paycheck coming in. You're not 100% responsible for sourcing your paycheck. Like, all you need to do is show up, do the do, and you're going to get paid at the end of the month, and all your bills are going to be covered, you're going to be safe, you're going to be looked after financially, as long as you show up for the roster that you're expected to show up for. In entrepreneurship, there's this massive ball of stress that is just placed on your shoulders, particularly in the beginning, of now being responsible for yourself completely and utterly in that area of finances. And so what I see happen is a lot of new entrepreneurs are very dysregulated when they're first stepping into the business journey. They don't know how to navigate this stress that they're experiencing. And then that becomes something that really blocks the windscreen of the car they're driving to get to the destination that they want to get to. So that's probably the other major challenge that I really help my students navigate, is how to actually start to regulate yourself and deal with the uncertainty that comes with business, and really allow yourself to see a clear path forward whilst being emotionally detached from those problems and those stresses that are coming up for you in your day-to-day.
Mm-hmm. It's so much more than just business strategy.
Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, which is what I love in terms of what you do, is that you really help the person. You help the person overcome those limiting beliefs and, yeah, regulating your nervous system. Who would have thought that that's a huge part of being successful, right? But I feel like with mental health and emotional well-being, that's the afterthought. And I'm happy that now we're talking about it more. It's more in the forefront. It's part of someone's journey. And like you have, in terms of an offer, you're coupling it with the business strategy.
Yes.
Right. So yes, yes. I feel like this is a recipe for success. And that's why you're so great at what you do and get those 6 figures in. You have a great recipe. And I want to talk about, very quickly, confidence. I'd like to hear your point of view on the word itself, how you would describe confidence, and how you help your students, clients, people get there.
I love the topic of confidence, because it's one of those topics where I think that people expect that, you're either born confident or you have to do some really challenging things in order to become confident. But what I know to be true about confidence is it's a choice. You get to choose whether you're going to have confidence in yourself. You get to choose if you're going to show up confidently. And so it really is a matter of just consciously choosing to do the thing, or to believe in yourself, to back yourself. Because when I first stepped into my business journey, I really shouldn't have had any confidence at all. I had no experience in business. I had no experience as a coach. I was leaving behind like the only thing that I had known for the last 5 years. No one around me understood the vision that I had, but yet I was confident in pursuit of the thing that I wanted to go after. And that's because I made that choice to trust myself. And so I really think when it comes to choosing to be confident, it's actually a matter of choosing to trust yourself, choosing to trust that you will be resourceful, you will figure it out, you will be all right. If you do fall, you'll get back up and you'll be able to move forward again. So that's really my perspective on that topic of confidence. And I guess the final thing that I could note on that is there really is an element of faking it until you make it. Right. And faking it so that, fake confidence, have this false sense of confidence within yourself so that you can get up and you can do the thing once. And then once you've done the thing once, now all of a sudden there's going to be a little bit of real confidence there that's going to allow you to do the thing again. And through that constant exposure, what's naturally going to happen is that level of confidence that you do feel is going to build and build and build and build and build. So start off by having a sense of false confidence in order to continually choose to step into that until it gets to the point where you actually really deeply do feel that confidence within yourself.
The building of the confidence is by showing up and doing the thing over and over again
Yeah.
and proving to yourself that you can do the thing. Right. So,
Yes.
but I love, like, how do you get yourself to actually do the thing to start off with? And how empowering to really look at it as a choice. You have a choice to do it or not. You have a choice to
Exactly.
step in, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what we forget all the time, that everything comes down to a choice. You had a
Mm.
choice, Emily Jane, back in the day, to stay in your master's, to ignore your intuition, or to follow that intuition into the unknown, into the uncertainty, out of your comfort zone. And I know you had sent me a quote that being uncomfortable is good. And I love that. So let's talk about the power of being uncomfortable.
Mm. I love it. I guess for me, when I think about the power of being uncomfortable, that is where all of the growth happens, right? Every single time I found myself in a position where there's been a level of discomfort there, by leaning into that discomfort, I've found growth, right? And when I've avoided stepping into that discomfort, I found myself staying in the exact same place that I was in before.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I'm a growth seeker. Any
Mhm.
entrepreneur, you're in this space because you're constantly searching for the next level. You're constantly searching to expand yourself, to expand your reality. And so if you find yourself avoiding discomfort, you're going to find yourself actually being very uncomfortable in that very spot that you're in.
Yeah.
Because you realize that, oh, if I'm not growing, if I'm not moving forward, then I'm staying stagnant or I'm moving backwards.
Mhm.
And when you're growth oriented, why would you want to stay in the same place, or worse off, move backwards? So for
Absolutely.
me, the power of seeking discomfort is actually the power of growing. And that's why actively, when I find myself meeting an edge where I'm like, oh, this thing's uncomfortable, whether it be an uncomfortable conversation that I need to have in my relationship or with a friend, or if it be an uncomfortable investment I need to make or an uncomfortable step I need to take in my business, I meet that edge and I really sit with that edge and recognize, okay, well, this is obviously the edge of my current comfort zone. So what is the
Mhm.
growth? What is the expansion that's waiting on the other side? And am I okay with staying stagnant or moving backwards, knowing the potential of what's on the other side of that edge? So I meet that, I sit with that every time it comes up, and then I find that courage to take that step forward and lean into it, knowing that one day that edge is actually going to be my new realm of comfort, my new norm. And then I'm going to meet the next, and going to meet the next, and going to meet the next. So it's really about creating a bit of a game when it comes to finding and meeting and passing that uncomfort zone.
I love that. And I love that perspective of a game, because then it makes it fun. Like, what's the next
Yeah.
step? What's the next level? Like, how uncomfortable can I
Yes.
get? Right. And I think that perspective shift is going to help us to just keep seeking those
Mhm.
opportunities. And it's
Yeah.
true. Uh, Without being uncomfortable, there's no growth. And if you're okay with that, then okay. But for growth seekers like us, we need to just keep putting ourselves out there and
Mm,
embracing the discomfort and embracing the uncertainty, knowing that one day it'll be your comfort zone. And then you got to keep expanding it, and it keeps changing and it keeps shifting and it keeps altering. But to really just keep leaning into that expansion of where you want to go.
exactly that.
Yeah. Yes. I love everything that you do, Emily Jane. You are wonderful. Tell us how to contact you, how we can work with you, any programs you have.
Amazing. Well, the best place to get in touch with me is on Instagram, as that is where I am most active on the day-to-day basis and very easy to find. So I'm just at Empower with M on Instagram, or you can have a listen to my podcast, the Empower with M podcast, which has episodes dating all the way back to 22-year-old M before she even quit her degree and quit her job to start her business. So you can really go back and listen to the whole journey on my podcast. But if you are feeling drawn to explore the potential of working with me, then please send me a message on Instagram, and we can have a chat about the different levels of support I have to really help you create that freedom and abundance that you desire to create within your business.
Amazing. And I will link everything in the show notes to have easy access to Emily Jane. Thank you
Amazing.
so much. What a wonderful conversation about business, mindset, confidence, discomfort, all the things.
Yes, I loved it. It was such a fun conversation today.
And thank you for leading by example, someone who overcame adversity, who really listened to her intuition and is now sharing and teaching others to do the same.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.